Okay, so since the last video, I've gone ahead and added some additional starter data. Mostly it's the same thing that I had added through the interface last time. So there's some Kate Bush and some Peter Gabriel in there. And I just wanted to be able to restart the program and rebuild the database periodically and still have the new stuff in there. So everything else is the same. And this week we're going to start working on a web front end to the system. So if we've done everything correctly, nothing in the data layer or logic layer should need to change, though we might want to expose some additional methods inside of the logic layer that are generally useful. But pretty much the only thing that should need to change is instead of console UI, which writes a menu to the console and gets input from the user through the console, we're going to have a web UI class instead that's running a web server. And we're going to use a platform called Flask for putting that together. And it also has a built-in templating system called Jinja 2, which allows us to create basically dynamic content by filling in areas of an HTML template page. So we'll see how all that works. And in the process of doing that, we're going to learn most of the really important things you need to know when you're building a web server, like how to get input from the user's browser and use it to create a results page that they can see, how to provide navigation. And then in the last lab for the class Lab 5, we're also going to be looking at security and how to create and manage accounts and support multiple users. So let's go ahead and get started by looking at the requirements for this week. So I'm going to go ahead and get into the core shell. So 233Y, we're in week 7, module 7 now. And on the web page, if you look towards the bottom, you'll see the assignment folder, and there's a list of requirements here. Web Lab Progress Check Instructions. And we're going to be creating a new Web UI class that's parallel to Console UI class, but both of them should continue running. So the fact that we're adding a Web UI class should not affect the Console UI class at all, though you probably only want to run one of them at a time because they're both going to have a cache of all the MongoDB data. And if you make changes from one place and then make changes from the other place, you can cause inconsistencies in the data. So either run the Web UI class or run the Console UI class, and they should both work. And then template folder, there's also going to be a static folder. This isn't a course on HTML or CSS, so I'm not going to worry overly much about making things look nice. But if you've already taken other courses and you know how to do that, then this could be a great project for your portfolio. So for the progress check, which we're doing this week, you have to have a Web UI class that starts up a web server on port 80. It has to serve a home page that includes a menu of links, must have a working link that allows the user to display the list of categories, and the categories and the list of categories on that page must be clickable. So when you click on a when you click on a category, then it should display the items in that category. And you should generate both the list of categories and the items using Jinja templates. I'll show you how to do that. And then finally, you have to be able to handle errors using a Jinja error page that inherits from an error template. So we're going to look at inheritance. And actually, this is not quite right. It shouldn't actually inherit from an error template. It should inherit from a default template. So I'm going to change that before I release the module next week. And then in terms of the project structure, it's all exactly the same, except now you have a web UI.py file, and if you have a UI package, it's going to be there. There's going to be a templates folder in the same folder as this is. where your Jinja 2 templates are going to be stored. And then there's a static folder that you can use to serve static HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And that's basically it for this week.